I mean, we're talking about Richard Spencer, who publishes on altright.com, publishes an article on July 28th by a man named Vincent Law, where the headline was, "To protect free speech, get rid of democracy." We really have to...
You know what? Okay, so let's use that example. I disagree with that. I haven't seen the piece, but it doesn't sound like something I'd agree with.
It's not.
Does Richard Spencer have a right to speak in public?
Oh, and we back with some more current events. Right now, we about to react to Tucker Carlson going in on an Antifa activist, leaving him speechless with just one question. Let's see how this is about to play out. In the meantime, if you like reactions like this, consider hitting that like button. Definitely subscribe to the channel and also hit the notification bell. Let's see how this is about to play out. Let me stop wasting your time. Let's go.
Well, America is plagued by the specter of fascist violence, and in an ironic twist, these fascists call themselves anti-fascist, Antifa. Whenever conservatives want to speak on campus or hold a rally, Antifa groups are a reliable presence, and they routinely try to stamp out speech using vigilante violence, which they perversely justify as a form of self-defense. Mike Isaacson is a professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. He founded the Antifa group Smash Racism DC, and he joins us tonight. Professor, thanks for coming on.
Hi, how you doing? Thank you for having me.
So your position, tell me if I'm mischaracterizing this, is people you...
Now, I'm sure you guys are about to say the same thing I'm going to say. Hey, yo, but pause, no Diddy. Why is neck so long like that? Sheesh, he got neck for days.
Find as fascists do not have free speech rights.
No. My position is that communities have the right to defend themselves against groups that actively seek to eliminate members of that community.
Defend themselves against violence, or defend themselves
against violence? I mean, we were talking about...
No, but physical violence? So if I say, for example...
We're talking about a history, a group that has a history of enacting hate crimes. Yeah, no, we're not... Are we going to pretend like we're suddenly in this ahistorical world where Dylan Roof or Wade Michael Page doesn't exist, where Anders Breivik doesn't exist? Are you kidding me?
No. Are you really a professor, by the way?
What?
So here's the question, though. Is it past statements that have espoused violence, or is it acts of violence?
It's
so
both.
could you?
Okay, but we're talking about...
Hold on. Let me just finish my question. Could you commit violence against me if you thought that I had a history of saying things that you imagined were violent?
I would never commit violence against you. I actually, when I was younger, I was a libertarian, and I actually looked up to you when you were a libertarian.
Okay, but let's take me out of this. Okay. Let's just, I want to know, like, the concept of self-defense is a legal concept, but it's also got, like, a long history and tradition in common law. So the idea is, if I'm hitting you, if I strike you physically, if I physically commit violence against you, you have a right to commit violence back in order to protect yourself or your property.
Sure.
But you're seeming to say that anybody who has espoused ideas that have at some point in history led to violence can be the subject of violence from you. You're not saying that.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I believe it is the right for communities to get together to assess what is a threat to them and to defend themselves against that threat.
So give me an example. Like, what public figure in America right now could be shut down, could have his free speech rights taken away, and could be the subject of violence under the standards you're describing?
Well, I mean, for instance, I think that the framework here of talking about violence as opposed to talking about preserving the very freedoms that you and I both enjoy is a false one. I mean, ultimately, we're talking about a movement that actively advocates against all the fetters of democracy. I mean, we're talking about Richard Spencer, who publishes on altright.com, publishes an article on July 28th by a man named Vincent Law, where the headline was, "To protect free speech, get rid of democracy." We really have to...
You know what? Okay, so let's use that example. I disagree with that. I haven't seen the piece, but it doesn't sound like something I'd agree with.
It's not.
Does Richard Spencer have a right to speak in public?
Richard Spencer is a danger to society. When he speaks in public, what he is doing, he is publicly recruiting people to his very violent movement, very violent ideology.
So does he have a right to speak in public?
I don't think he has a right to speak in public unopposed, and that is ultimately what the purpose of Antifa is to show up and oppose him.
But it's not opposition. You shut people down, you prevent them from speaking, and you commit violence against them. I know a number of people, well, don't tell me it's untrue, I know people who have been knocked down and beaten by people from Antifa. So that is true. It does happen. We have it on tape. We just roll the tape.
Right.
So you're saying, is that justified?
Yes. I believe that communities have the right to defend themselves against threats to their community.
Against ideas they don't like?
No.
Where was the threat? Y'all let me know, where was the threat? It seems like all they were doing was just inciting riots, right? Remember, let's not forget about the bricks that were being laid around and, ready for people to just pick them up out of nowhere. Where were they getting these bricks from? Unless the buildings are falling apart and the bricks was just there, you understand? But come on now. Y'all have to, I hope y'all didn't forget. I hope this is not like a Mandela effect that's happening where people are just acting like this never occurred. But let's not forget, 2020 was a weird year.
They have a right to commit
against
violence.
People who have explicitly said that they want to eliminate those people from our society.
But you're conflating violence with ideas.
No,
if I have
I'm
not raised my hand to strike you, you have no right to strike me.
But in order to raise your hand to strike me, you have to think that you're going to strike me. And when you are going out in public as a protester, explicitly saying that you want to eliminate most of the people from this country, I believe most of the people in this country have the right to say, no, that's not okay.
Okay, but you absolutely have a right to say it's not okay. What you don't have a right is to prevent me from saying what I think, even if you disagree, and you definitely don't have a right to commit violence against me. And you're blurring the lines there. And by the way, don't you work at a criminal...
Yes, I'm in a college department, yes.
Okay, you don't have the right to do that. You have the right to make a counter case. Do you see the distinction that I'm making?
Tucker, when I walked into this building, I counted 5 security guards at the front door and 2 police cars outside. Are you going to tell me that the violence that they would enact against someone who is looking to do you or any number of the people that work here harm, are you going to tell me that the violence that they enact to protect preemptively the staff that are protected also by the barricades that you have?
I don't even know what you're talking. I'm honestly not following you.
Are you
because I'm not a college
student? You don't have security.
Well, I actually don't have security, but there is security at
There's
our
security
building.
in your building, for sure.
And there's security at lots of buildings.
And the reason that there is security in your building is, no, the reason that you have security is because ultimately that security provides a space for nonviolent civil discourse, which is ultimately what we want.
But you don't own, slow down. There are a million distinctions here, but you don't own the public square. You don't own the street.
But I believe the public owns the public square. And at the end of the day,
you're not in charge of the public, and you're not in charge of deciding. The public isn't even in charge of public. Okay,
we are talking about a system that has been gerrymandering people out of public representation. Okay, if we're relying on the cops, ultimately those cops are working for the very people that you work for, and not in the interest of the vast majority of society. We don't have representation. We don't have representation by the state. We don't.
Okay, last question. Do you?
I guess it's safe to say that both BLM and Antifa were both created and founded by the LGBTQ community, allegedly. It's safe to say, no?
You teach students?
I do.
Huh. And do you teach them that the First Amendment does not apply to people they disagree with?
I teach them to think critically, and that's why I'm very open about my anti-fascism and my anarchism.
So if someone in your class said, you know what, I'm a Trump voter, I'm against affirmative action.
I've had those, and I encourage them to research and explore and hold them to the exact same standards that I hold any other student.
Yeah, I bet.
I do. Yeah, I had an alt-right supporter actually in my class last semester. Yeah. I worked with him on his papers. He started off kind of bad at citation. I got him better at citation, and he wrote a paper that was an A paper. I mean, I am not discriminating against my students.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
except you think that people you disagree should be beaten up, but whatever. All right, Congressman. Professor, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, there are people who think that you are crazy.
Sure.
And you have elicited a lot of
threats.
Hate.
Yes.
Mail and
yes.
threats.
And not only me. Unfortunately, this is extended to my faculty, to my coworkers at John Jay, to the staff there.
But what did you expect when you put something out there like that? You know, when you put something out there and it seems from an outside.
All right, now I know in New York, John Jay is a college of criminology, so maybe he's out here in New York. Man, listen, you better stay in that school, my boy, because now people going to see who you really are. Oh, man. If they still continue to employ you, something is wrong with our education system.
observer.
back up.
No. Let me ask the question. Sure. It seems from an outside observer that you are just trying to get confirmation and reassurance from a group of people that you want to like you, and those are the people online who share your political views.
No,
so why would you be surprised that if you put something out there on social media that someone who is either intrigued or alarmed by you goes through your tweets and finds something which is now a public record and presents it to the public? Sure. Why would that surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me. And it doesn't surprise me that this whole happened. I mean, this is a pattern that has been a coordinated attack, not against just me, but against professors all over the country.
No, but you are an easy person to dislike.
I mean, no, I'm an easy person to target by fascists. That's why this organization called Far Left Watch is going through my tweets, finding tweets from 3 weeks back. And I don't know if you've gone through my Twitter.
Not that far. I mean, I have people who go online and find stuff that I wrote in 2012.
Right.
You know, and they take that as though it's a modern day, and they abstract things.
Right. And
but that happens, and that's the name of the game. So this is what I challenge you to do, because it's one thing to be a professor at a college and say that it's a privilege to teach future dead cops. As someone who has cops in my family, I'm offended by that, because the people I know who are cops, they have kids.
Are they immortal?
They have mortgages.
Are they immortal?
No, don't give me a nihilistic argument, because that's not what you're saying. You are not saying everybody dies. Privilege means that there is some joy that you take.
I do take joy in teaching my students. I love my students.
And knowing that these people will be assassinated in the future. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
I want these students.
You don't have to be a genius to discern the subtext of your tweets.
I want my students
to
actually be able to do what they want, which is help people. And I don't think policing is an institution that allows them to do that.
Yeah,
I want to see them become social workers. I want to see them become EMTs.
Then go work for
firefighters.
I mean, it's not necessarily subversive for you to teach economics at a school that specializes in criminology. I know where John Jay is.
Right.
They've got a great pool that no one uses. It's a wonderful college. But if you were so brave, if you were so subversive, if you were so committed to your movement, which I don't think you are, I think there's actually a great deal of cowardice that runs through you, you would become a cop.
I don't see the logic there.
If you really wanted to work within the system,
I don't want to
undo the thing that you say is so unjust,
I absolutely
then
do not
you would become a cop.
I do not want to work within the system. I am a narco-capitalist, or a narco-communist. I do not want to work within the system. I want to tear the system down root and branch. The police serve the weapons industry and the prison industry, and they are put in this awful position of having to fire their weapons more often because their training videos are telling them to do so, and having to criminalize the entire population because it's profit for the prison industry and profit for the weapons industry.
Okay, so
I want the problem that we have is that government infrastructure at its core is run by private companies for profit, not in the interest of the American people.
What do you guys think about that right there? Go in the comments and let me know how you feel about this right here. He come across like he's a little zesty, and he's super arrogant, you know? He's very arrogant, he's rude, he's obnoxious, he doesn't let people finish their sentence, and he seems angry. I don't understand how he still has a job. I'm lost with that right there.
I don't think you have the interest of the American people, because I think that you've lived in a bubble for so long.
I disagree.
You don't actually know people.
I teach people who are playing to be
You
cops.
don't have
any
about
a bubble.
Rational.
I'm not on a TV. I'm not on a TV show on Fox News. I'm talking to people who are thinking about
because you wouldn't be good at it. I mean, that's the unfortunate reality is you wouldn't be able to handle that. Nor if you were attacked by someone, I think the first thing you would do is call 911. I don't think you have the ability to physically defend yourself.
Yeah,
I think that if you were threatened, if you were attacked, I read that you have gone into hiding, which
I did not. Go
obviously
into hiding.
Not, because you are here.
Yeah, no, I was.
But I think you are the first person who would call. The police.
Absolutely not. I would call my friends.
You see, she's smart. She basically sized them up and said, "I could take you out. I have more mass than you. I could definitely beat you up." You understand? So we know he's going to call that 3-digit number on speed dial too.
Because the ones who are cops that you've taught,
the ones
betrayed with your tweets,
my Antifa friends who actually are able
to be a rational professor, teaching an entire generation of people who were inspired by cops and firefighters who died on 9/11. Those kind of people.
What?
Exactly.
I don't understand what point you're making here. that
he doesn't know what to say.
Am I supposed to to tell my students, yes, you should become a police officer so that you can have a gun at all times and possibly kill someone. I don't think that that's a good thing.
No, I think your hope, and you have revealed your intention.
I would love them to become firefighters.
I think your intention is to teach as many cops, as many of them get on the street as possible, so they can be assassinated, and that would bring you completion and great joy.
I want to see them actually fighting in their own interests, if they do choose to become police officers, advocating for the demilitarization of the police, advocating against the increasing criminalization of the population, because at the end of the day, that puts them at danger.
Yeah, you know what you can do.
You know why he's full of shit? I'm going to tell you why. Right now, let's just say we get rid of all of the police and someone's going to step to him. What do you think he's going to do? He can't even defend himself. He looked like he's 10 pounds wet. All right? So he could miss me with that. It's always a nerd always want to talk like this.
Do all of those things, and you can have logical discussions about all those things. I do pretty much every night on the show. We talk about decriminalizing, we talk about demilitarizing, and you can do that without advocating violence and without being a part of an organization that takes pleasure in harming people whose ideas run counter to yours.
This is not about people whose ideas run counter to ours. These are about people who actively want to politically organize to eliminate large sections of our population.
That's the straw man that you're employing, because you don't just show up at neo-Nazi rallies. That's not the only place that Antifa shows up. And you are not like a vigilante group who's going around keeping little old ladies safe.
Like I said, we're not a vigilante group.
No,
we work very closely with the communities that we end up showing up with.
He said he works very close with the communities. You hear this? With the communities, he's calling people the communities, right? The people who are agreeing with his radical behavior. This is what he's calling a community. Unbelievable. Make it make sense. Yeah, something is wrong with this guy right here. His character says it all. We already know he is no way in shape or form able to defend himself. So with that being said, go in the comments, run it up, flood it up. Let me know your thoughts on this right here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Let me know what you want to see next.